All right, guys, let's talk about the Minnesota Wild today. Coming off of a disappointing season, but I don't think anyone was surprised with them not making the playoffs. They finished 11 points out of a playoff spot with 87 points in total, 39 wins. I think that's about where everyone expected them to be. Without that, extra $14 million of cap to play with, it's kind of hard for this side to really put together a team. Good news coming off at the end of this year. Let's take a deep dive into their 2024 projected lineup, and I'll hand you off to Jaden.
Yeah, look, I feel like just basically saying not much here, just because there's no real changes. But I'll go through the lineup anyway. So you got Boldy, Rossi, and Kaprizov on the top. Foligno, Eriksson, Zuccarello, Johansson, Hartman, and Goudreau. Lorco, Trenin, and then I'll just say Murat because I'm not pronouncing that. Onto the defense, we got Brodin, Faber, Middleton, Spurgeon, and Chisholm, I think so you say it, and John Merrill. Goalies still the same as well. Gustafsson and Fleury, and just notable mentions all the way down there at the bottom is just Johnson and Bogosian. Bogosian. So yeah, not much has changed in this lineup. There's not really much to say. Like if even the 23-24 lines, they've got just a little bit of the depth pieces scratched out there. Obviously, Eriksson Ek, it will be is staying, but he might be injured or something. That's why he's crossed out. I'm not 100% sure on his status, but yeah, I don't know what to say. Like they just have to improve on what they did last year with basically the same roster. It is the last year with what is it, 13 mil that will be tied up. That will come off the books next year, which can go towards re-signings and new players. So that's what you look forward to. So it's just one more year.
Yeah, I think look, it's almost over for the Wild. I think unfortunately for this sort of franchise, even though they've been in the playoffs and they've been around the mark, which is impressive considering their cap trouble that they've been in for quite some time. Um, it's almost over. You get that $13 million back, and that $13 million is huge. You can turn that into two. Um, oh, one really good top line player, and then maybe a second or third line player as well. You pick someone up for 8 mil, someone up for 5 mil, or you can pick three third line players up for 3-4 mil or whatever it is. They don't really have the flexibility to do that at the moment. Like you look at their lineup, Kaprizov, who is at 96 points last year, is on $9 million. And basically, it was pretty evident he signed that purely because they couldn't give him any more. And at least this way, he plays for a couple of years, and then he can probably sign a decent, maybe 7-8 year contract at some decent money if he keeps that effort up. But yeah, you look at their lineup, and their highest defender is what I mean, I'm seeing, yeah, Brodeen, 6 mil, Spurgeon 7.5. They don't have any big contracts because they physically can't. So yeah, I feel like unfortunately this season, I don't know where they're gonna go. I don't know if it's gonna improve on last season. I feel like they're gonna be in that real no man's land again. Um, but they've proven they're able to get into the playoffs with this cap space tied up in the past, and they may well do that again. It's just you look at Masu Zuccarello, he's getting older. Foligno is older. Johansson on their lineup is older. Like their lineup is getting older, and as like you mentioned with the goaltenders, Gustafsson, hopefully he can have a sort of a better season this season. But Andre Fleury is getting up there in age as well. How well that tandem's going to go is really going to dictate where they finish in the season. But yeah, unfortunately, because they don't have too much cap space, they haven't been able to do much in the postseason. Pick, pick up any real big name free agents or be able to pull off any major trades. So yeah, we're pretty much looking at the same thing we looked at last season. And personally, I can't see them, all of a sudden having a 15-point better season to get them in the playoffs.
Well, I could just because they've done it before.
Mm,
Granted, this is probably a lesser roster to than previous seasons. However, you can make the argument that players like Rossi, Baldy, even Kaprizov are just getting better and better. And it looks like Eriksson Ek is kind of hitting his prime as well. Just hit 30 goals last season, so everything's sort of clicking there. Obviously, Zuccarello's still there. He is getting older, but look, it's like a half age team and a half not age team. It's a mixed match. There's at least some veterancy. I've got to say though, like my biggest concern is not even the defense. Like I feel like you can get away with mediocre defense as long as you play a good system. It's the
mm.
goaltending is my worry. If they can step it up, not sure if Fleury can, get back to 900 plus. Um, even like 905 or something like you really want to have there as a goaltender. And then Gustafsson, he's had two good seasons and two mediocre seasons. Um, so he's done it, good season, bad season, good season, bad season, and he had bad season last season in regards to stats wise. So hopefully that means a good season this season.
Mm.
But in regards to that, yeah, they're like if you're gonna go into like players to watch, they're my two. Just goaltending in general, I think that is the key for this team. Uh, as long as they can stop the pucks, I think they have the firepower. I feel like you can get a power play that's working here, especially with all these skilled playmakers. Essentially, my only concern I probably would say is they're a little bit lighter than some of the teams we've already covered in regards to like height and size. Boston, Florida, like these are pretty generally, physical 6 foot plus play teams, and then you got Rossi, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Spurgeon, all these other players that are below 6 foot, and some of them don't pack a punch. So
Yeah, and I think
that's my only concern there as well.
yeah, and like obviously the emergence of Brock Faber last year was absolutely massive for them, especially with being without Spurgeon for so long. The other interesting thing is that Spurgeon still is technically on injured reserve, and I don't think he's going to be starting the season either. I think he may miss a few. I just don't know exactly when he's
He's
expected
always missed a
back.
few though. Like
Yeah,
as
yeah,
long as I'm just looking at
100%.
the stats now, and like can recall, he's never really had a full season. I see
No,
2018-19, he's his only full 82 game season. So
yeah,
it's
but I
expected.
mean, he only had it is, but he only had what 16 games last season. So
Yeah, yeah.
if they can get 70 games out of him this season, that's at least an area where they're going to improve on having him in the lineup.
Well, that's what they were missing
Um,
last season, wasn't it?
exactly. So
Another
Spurgeon
D
comes
player.
back in. Yeah, especially a veteran D player like Spurgeon. Like he's a cool head. It'll be interesting to see how he can bounce back into that lineup. Yeah, like these guys, it's going to come down to the likes of Matt Boldy, Rossi, and Kaprizov probably continuing on their sort of. I mean, Kaprizov is developed, but Boldy and Rossi especially continuing on their development. Rossi came out after he's been so talked about for so long, and he finally came out last season and had a pretty good season. 21 goals, 40 points in 82 games in what was his first full season is pretty impressive. I know people have been expecting a lot from the kid, but he finally come out and showed that he is good enough to be in this side. And I'm interested to see if he can make another step up. And if Boldy can go, again another step, all of a sudden they could be headed to, they might be able to make up that 15 points that they need to get into the playoffs.
I'd
But
argue you don't want Rossi to just because it's contract year. They got the money coming off the books. I would say have a down year, sign him you know, a contract, and then kick it off. So that's what I would
yeah,
want.
yeah, put
Um,
up put up another 30, 40 point season so they can sign you to a really low contract,
Mm,
and then you can absolutely like just go bunter. Yeah, I mean, ideally for the franchise, that's what you want, but like you know, and I agree with you. I don't think this year is the year for them to really go after a cup. I think this year is just a development of those younger players, and any other young players that they can get, into the team as well,
yeah.
and then go for it next year onwards. Because without that 14 million, as we've seen over the years from them in playoffs. They get to the playoffs, they sneak in, and then they lose in the first round. And it's like, congratulations, you're not getting a good draft pick in the first round because you're picking at like 20. Um, it was all for nothing basically, and they've never expected to go far in the playoffs either. So last year I wasn't too angry that they missed because it meant that they got. They would have had a better draft pick. I can't remember actually if they did have their draft pick last year, to be perfectly honest. But did they draft? Yeah, they did. They picked up Ziev Bayam. So, they finally got to pick 12th overall last season. So, it's been a lot better than what they have been picking at. Um, and, having another decent draft pick in the top, 15 of the draft probably wouldn't hurt this team and then hit the ground running. So, as much as we can probably, you can see them bouncing back. Personally, I hope that they have another so year, if not a even worse season than last season. Just purely for them to get a little bit of their prospect pool, add to that, and just focus purely on the development of some of these young players like Boldy, Faber,
Mm,
and Rossi, because that's your future. And you're not gonna do anything with $14 million in cap not being utilized. It's just not gonna happen. So,
yeah.
yeah, I don't think you should expect
My
anything from these
concern with
guys
that
this
is
season.
throwing is generally leaves bitter locker rooms in a sense. And I'm not saying throwing
Oh,
purposely, but
I'm not. Yeah,
underperforming is you got Kaprizov to sign in 2 years. You got Faber down there on the D to sign.
yeah,
A lot of these are shorter term contracts, and granted, some of them are older players, so they'll be probably be leaving anyway. Doesn't matter.
yeah. I
But
mean, Faber signed that 8-year deal anyway, so
yeah,
he's locked in.
yeah, sorry.
Um,
But basically, what I'm just saying is like people like that, you want to make it a team when you have that 13 mil or however much comes. I know they've signed some players to extensions, so some of that money goes away anyway. But when it comes to free agency next season, you kind of want to be a hub like, hey, we've got these players, got this core, we have this much money. If you come, you can be a star player, and we really can make a shot. So I think they'll do what they did last season. They'll be in the hunt the whole time. You know, depending how far they go, I could definitely see them doing what they've done in the previous seasons and just going crazy. Granted, people stay healthy. They've had a lot of issues with injuries, so if people don't stay healthy, then I can see them just sitting outside the wild card spot. If they have a full healthy squad, I could definitely see them going far, especially if they get special teams sorted. But like I said, my biggest concern, the goaltending. Granted, that comes with defense in front of it, but I feel like they've had generally some good defense when they've had a healthy lineup. So, and Fleury on occasions looked pretty poor, and I just want to see if Gustafsson can step up and take a 60 games played season.
yeah, if he can get back to his, 931 save percentage that he did the season prior, like all of a sudden, you're probably sitting here going, yeah, well, Minnesota are going to be a lock for a playoff spot. Um, but the question is can he get back to that? Um, because neither of them had a good season last season, and Spurgeon coming back may improve their defense, but it's not for me. It's not hugely impressive. Um, so they may still struggle when it comes goaltending wise, but you just have to wait and see, I guess.
Who's even their third string goalie? Wallstedt. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
they do have one of the best
I mean,
goaltenders coming through,
I
but the
mean, you have a
question is,
goaltender with the name Wool in its name is no matter what, they're always going to be good. I don't care.
you you'd be pretty annoyed if you had a goalie with the name Wall in it and he was not a brick wall. Um, but yeah, look, for me, I still just don't think that they're going to make it this season. I'd love to see them prove me wrong. I quite like the Minnesota Wild team, but I just unfortunately, I feel like they're still a couple of years away. I feel like they need that cap space back, and they need to be able to utilize it. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I guess who would you be looking at this year? Who's your one to watch from this lineup? Who are
No,
you looking
I've
for
said it.
a big
Said it the
season
whole
from?
thing. So goaltenders, in particular, Gustafsson, just to see if he can take a 60-game season, have Fleury play, 20 or so, and then be the mainstay if they do make playoffs. The go-to man. So, and obviously he's the general future. He's only 26 and signed for 2 years, so that is my, you know, man to watch. Basically, if he falters or the goaltending falters, I think this team can't really rebound from that.
Yeah, look, I agree with you on that. I think that's a great shout. Um, but I'm gonna have my eyes on Matt Zuccarello, to be honest with you, because I think
The
that
regression at that age.
yeah, so I think you should see some good performances from that top line of Boldy, Rossi, Kaprizov. Whether that is the line or they split it up, who knows? But my worry is that that top line just does what they did last year and continues on that same path. But you get a regression from Matt Zuccarello, and that will ultimately just cancel out any improvement that that top line makes. So I'm just interested to see whether he can continue at his pace because I mean he put up 63 points in 69 games last season. Um, for a 37-year-old, that's one hell of a feat. Um, so I'm just interested to see if he can keep that up. I hope he does because I really enjoy watching Zuccarello. I think he's a great player. I think he's been really serviceable for the Wild whilst he's been there, but his whole career he's been a fantastic player. Um, I hope he keeps it up. But yeah, he's my one to look out for just because I feel like if he does regress, it may be the thing that sort of holds Minnesota back as well, just not having that extra player to sort of push them along.
Yeah, easy. All right. I guess we can wrap it up there. So don't forget to comment below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more hockey content from us Aussies. But till next time, we'll catch you guys.
Bye guys.